Hi folks, welcome back to Racin-n-Braisin. I am CJ and it is Sunday, which would normally mean that we would be talking about picks ahead of the Sunday Cup Series race and talking about what we have seen through the weekend so far. But of course, it is an off weekend. It is Easter Sunday. That means there's no picks to be had. So I wanted to twist things up a little bit. If you guys caught the last video, you know that I am making ham rolls today. So I wanted to take you along with me on how I make the dough for my ham rolls. A little bit of a different video today. I have a couple of segments. I'm going to show you the whole process through getting everything together, making the dough, getting it rolled up, cut, and put in the oven. That's the game plan here today. Let's talk a little bit about the ham roll itself. This is a family thing that I remember as a kid. Around this time of year, Easter, there would always be a ham for Easter dinner. The ham rolls would always be like the day after. With whatever leftover ham there was, that would be diced up and rolled up into some biscuit dough, sliced and baked, and served with a white gravy, usually a pepper gravy. A nice little throwback for myself here, a good little memory to eat here today. One of the things that, of course, I'm going to do is chef it up here today because I can't help myself. I have spent 20 years in the industry and of course, I can't leave well enough alone. I'm always trying to do different things. So I got to thinking about how I want to make this, more for me. Since I'm blowing my diet here today with the biscuit, I'm just going to go ahead and make myself a brunch stack. So I plan on baking some eggs in some dishes while I'm baking the rolls. That's going to be the same shape. I'm going to find a way to stack the roll and the egg and then pour the gravy over top. And that's going to be a perfect Sunday Easter brunch dish. So stick with me here today, guys. I'm going to get us set up for our next segment, and that's going to be our mise en place. All right, guys, let's talk about our mise en place. Basically, that's just fancy kitchen speak for getting my things in place. Many years in the restaurant industry led to many Sunday brunches and making many dozens of biscuits for those brunches. Had to come up with some simple recipes to use. And this one I found on the internet. I was in a bind, didn't know a biscuit recipe. This one was very handy. It utilized what I had on hand. In particular, the flour. So let's talk about the biscuit recipe itself. It's just 6 ingredients, pretty simple. AP flour. Recipe calls for 2 cups or 250 grams. And a little pro tip, use the weight measurement when you're measuring flour. Go ahead and spend the $10 to get yourself a kitchen scale. Definitely a big help. Anyways, we've got our AP flour, 250 grams. I've got baking powder. This is 2 tablespoons. I've got a teaspoon of salt and 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then I have 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. You can use whole milk or 2%. Does not matter what type of milk you use. I like buttermilk because it's got that little bit of a sour note to it coming from the acid. And then finally, of course, the butter. The important thing about the butter is that in order for this to work best, we want this butter to remain as cold as possible. So after I get done shooting this, I'm going to throw this in the freezer for about 10 minutes. What I did first is I cut it up into small little cubes because we're going to use our food processor to cut the butter into the flour. Now, this is a trick that I learned. If you freeze the butter and you run it through the food processor with the flour, it's going to create a very mealy texture, almost like a cornmeal. That's going to allow the butter to granulate into our dough. And then once we cook it, the butter will melt all throughout the dough. Next, let's talk about how I'm chefing things up. Of course, this is a ham roll, so I've got my diced ham. That's about 8 ounces. And then I did 4 ounces of grated cheddar cheese. So that's going to go in with everything here. So let's get ourselves set up and ready to go for putting the dough together. This is going to happen very fast. All right, guys, let's get this dough put together. A pretty simple process here. I'm going to take my AP flour, add it to the food processor. Now, if you don't have a food processor at home, that's certainly okay. You can certainly get a dough cutter, and that would do the same thing, cutting your butter into the AP flour. Or you could use a box grater, and you could actually grate your butter into really tiny little flakes, and that would work really well too. So let's move on now. We're going to add our baking powder, our sugar, and our salt. And before I add my butter, I'm just going to pulse this real quick so I can combine everything real quick. And now I'm going to take that butter that I just removed from the freezer and I'm going to put it in here, but I'm going to try and place it all around. So there's an opportunity for this butter to be evenly distributed as the blade turns and forces it to sink down. So, bear with the noise here. I'm going to cut out a lot of this noise here for us, but I'm going to turn this on and we're going to see how this looks. Okay, so we've combined everything and it's created this mealy texture. It's probably really hard to see on the camera here, but if you've ever looked at cornmeal, you know, it's kind of got that like coarse powderiness. I know, a very weird description. But that's what we're looking for here. So everything's been combined. It only took about 30 seconds of running the food processor. And now we're going to throw it into our mixing bowl. All right, and now we're going to add our buttermilk. So this is 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk. And again, I'll put a recipe in the description here today for all of you guys to follow along. Final thing I want to do before I forget anything else and risk allowing the butter to get too warm is I need to turn on my oven, which is going to be set to 425 degrees. Okay, so we've got our mealy flour with the butter cut in, put into our bowl, and we've added our buttermilk. Our oven is turned on and warming up to 425. So now I'm going to take the buttermilk and mix it into the flour. Big thing about biscuits is we do not want to overwork anything. So this is just going to be very lightly until it starts to form into a dough. And we're just going to press everything in until it's all well combined. I'm not going to use my hands yet, but we're going to get there real soon, okay? You can see as I'm mashing it together, that liquid is getting absorbed into the flour and we're starting to get that doughy consistency. Now, we're just about ready to turn out onto our flat surface. As you'll see, I've got this beautiful countertop, but it's all stone and it's uneven. So what I've done here today is I've taken my cutting board and I've wrapped it in parchment paper and taped it on the backside so the paper doesn't move around. And that's what I'm going to use as my flat surface to fold my dough on. Now, I wore a dark shirt today so I can prove to you that I am playing with flour because invariably some of it is going to end up on me and on the rest of the kitchen in some form or another. We can all blame my mother for this. She does a fantastic job of getting flour all over the place. Love you, Mother. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead and get some flour and put that on our surface here. And we're going to take a little bit of flour and just put it on our hands too. This is going to help us work our dough. Remember what I said, we don't want to overwork our dough. We're going to put our dough out, flatten it into a squarish rectangle shape, and then start folding. Our goal here is to get 5 to 6 folds so we can get some layers created, and then we'll get it flattened out into our sheet so we can start our roll. Okay, here we go. all of our dough. I've just kind of rolled it in the flour here so that I can have it workable. Now, I haven't really combined a lot of the flour into it. I've just put it on the surface so that I can work it. And now I'm going to push it out into a rectangle shape. See how I'm using my hands here? Definitely already starting to get some flour moved around onto my clothing. I can feel that already. Doing a pretty good job here. And what I'm looking for here as I press this is to just try and form it into that rectangle shape first and foremost. But I'm also looking for about a 1/4 inch in thickness. So that's looking pretty good there. So now we're going to roll, or we're going to fold. Okay, so there's our first fold. And now we can get a little bit more flour here to help us out, keep things from sticking too much. There we go. So that was our first fold. There's our second fold. Now let's do it again. Let's press it out. All I'm doing here is just pressing. I'm not really like pushing holes into it or really working the dough too hard. Because I want to be quick about it. I don't want to transfer too much heat from my hands into that cold butter that's inside the dough, first and foremost. But second, the more we work it, the more the glutens in the flour are going to be mad at us and start to make things tough in the cooking process. So get a little more flour going on here. That was fold 3 and 4, right? So we're going to try and get one more good fold here. 5. There is 6. Now pushing it in because I'm really trying to get that shape. Those folds there are creating our flaky layers. They're very important. See, flour all over me. They're very important. Those folds are very important. All right, so here we go. Beautiful dough, right? There we go. Nice little sheet of dough. It's about a 1/4 inch thick. Now we're ready for the good stuff. Let's make this into a roll. All right, so I have got my cheese. I have got my ham. I don't think I'm going to end up using all that ham, but we'll see. So I'm going to start with the cheese here first. And this is just going to end up on a even layer here. Just use what I can. I don't need to use it all, but we'll use as much as we want. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. All right, let's use some of this ham now. All right, guys, now the roll. Here's the thing. You use a bench scraper to kind of help you get things up. That's what I like to do to try and do this in an even shape. But just think of this like a cinnamon bun, right? This is how we're rolling this, just like a cinnamon bun. Oh, looking good. Nice and easy. I'm not trying to stretch the dough too much or anything like that. I'm just giving it a nice, easy roll. And now that I'm over here on the flap on the back side here, I'm really going to try and press down and give it a good roll so that that flap there joins back in with the roll itself. So I got my bench scraper here, which is also a pasta cutter, pastry cutter. It serves many purposes, only costs a couple of bucks. You can pick these up at even Dollar Tree, Dollar General. So they get 6 good pieces. Let's do cut in half here first. There's one, and then we'll take that and divide this into thirds. So 2 more cuts like that. That. There we go. And there we go. All right, so now we've got our rolls. Look at those guys. They're going to be wonderful. Final note about cooking biscuits as we're getting ready to throw things in the oven here. Biscuits like to be bunched together, so we don't want any space here. So we're actually going to line this up into 2 rows of 3. I am going to take a little bit of melted butter and put that on the baking sheet here, and I'll end up brushing a little bit of that butter on top as well. So these are going to go in the oven. All right, guys, so we've got our dough together and put in the rolls, cut, put on the baking sheet, and lined up. You see I've created this little stack here with them. And then I've also gone ahead and made my egg dish. 2 eggs per dish here, and I used some of that leftover ham and cheese in it. Just scrambled it up real quick, shot it with some nonstick spray, and threw all of that in there. I'm going to let that bake all together. So the recipe says about 12 minutes for bake time. So I'm going to set a timer for this guy and start checking it at about 12 minutes. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get this in the oven here, 425, about 12 minutes. This will cook everything all here together. So while that cooks, as you can see, I definitely got some flour all over me, and there's plenty of flour on the countertop here. Once again, thanks, Mom, for showing me that trick throughout my lifetime. I'm going to leave you guys here. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Easter Sunday. Keep an eye out for the short that will come out later today on how this all looks when it's put together. I'm going to get started on my gravy, and I'm going to turn on the replay of the Xfinity race from Rockingham. Look out for tomorrow's video. We'll talk about the racing from Rockingham, the truck race and the Xfinity race, and what we saw. What I've seen so far this weekend has been great, and I'm looking forward to talking with you guys about it tomorrow. Please let me know what you guys are cooking for Easter dinner here today in the comments down below. Like and subscribe, share with your friends, and I will see all of y'all tomorrow night. Take care, guys. Enjoy the holiday.